Welcome back to the FNMI Allies Podcast, where we discuss contemporary FNMI issues in society. Our mission is to spread awareness about issues faced by FNMI figures in their daily lives. This podcast is based on weeks on end of research from credible sources regarding the silencing of Indigenous issues across Canada. Today, our hope would be to shed light on the problems in the Indigenous education system and, in general, bring awareness to the multitude of problems in reserves. My name is Adam, and these are my co-hosts.
I'm Theo.
Russell.
Mitch.
And today we have a special guest, Miss Tian.
Welcome.
Hi there.
It's a bit
Thanks for having us.
weird, but yeah. It's good that you guys could make it. It's be good. I'm just trying to pull up my questions here quickly. We just have a couple of questions for you. See if you could answer them. Pretty much just about like what it's like living on a reserve and what education's like on a reserve, teaching and stuff like that. Really. Shall we get started?
Yeah, cool. That's great. I will start, and I actually have two of these students that are studying to become teachers in Nunavut, Esther and Roland, and maybe they can each introduce themselves after. You can just share a little bit about where you were born, where you grew up, and maybe how many siblings you have, and what your family looks like now, and how you like living in Inuit. Okay, I'll start. I'll give you an example. My name is Shan Shan. My students call me Shan Shan or Shan or Shani. And I've been living in Inuit, Nunavut for the last 2 years now. I first came up to the Arctic to teach in our local high school. We are an Inuit settlement on an island. Different from other FNM First Nations and Métis communities and nations, we do not have reserves in the north. Instead, we live in closed settlements, and that's connected back to the 1960s, 60 scoop, where all of the Inuit were asked to move off of the land and into these settlements. And today, Iglulik's population is about 1,600 people, and we are a very remote island just south of Baffin Island in the northern region of Baffin. And it's a cold place, it's a windy place, and it's sometimes very dark, but sometimes very bright. So right now would be a season where it's light season and the sun doesn't set at night. And after a long dark season, everyone looks forward to having a light season so that we can be out on the land, living the traditional way, hunting and fishing, and raising children and teaching children out on the land. And since that is the traditional way, today what we have in our school systems represents something very different. It's a very different system of education than what Inuit have used over the last 4,000 years. Inuit have been living in the Arctic for 4,000 years, and only recent, in the last 60 years, have they been learning in a school similar to one that you're in. So it was a very drastic change for them. And as a teacher, when I came into the high school, I had really very little knowledge about Inuit. I find as Canadians, we don't know a lot about what Inuit life and what their world is all about. And so I learned very little about that before I came up to the school. And what I saw really shocked me. And I'm still learning a lot about what it means to be a teacher in the north, but part of what I wanted to do is leave that education system because I had a hard time really supporting that education system because I didn't believe it worked for our youth. And then these wonderful students, and I'm getting to work with them now because they're going to be the change for their next generation. They went through the education system themselves, and they'll tell you a little bit about what it was like, if it worked for them, if it didn't work for them, and the changes that they want to bring to the education system in the future when they do become teachers. And part of the thought of many Southern teachers when we go to the North is we want to teach ourselves out of a job. We want to teach in a way that allow Inuit to eventually take over the teaching. Because we can't always have Southerners go up to teach Inuit. That's one, non-ethical, and it's not sustainable. So the best way for us to do that is to enable young, capable, smart, courageous, and really passionate Inuit to be able to do that work for their own communities. So teaching the North is not easy. It's a very testing and challenging place beyond just the environment, right? It's the folks that we work with, the conditions we see, and it's not what we're used to from the South. But when we can go beyond that surface, those challenges on the surface, we get to meet individuals like Esther and Roland and George, who are all in the building today, and those connections are really, really rich and valuable. Like George Ellis is also another instructor at the Arctic College. George and I fished on Baffin Island together, and that was like a really memorable experience for me last year, fishing with George. And this year I'm not able to be up there fishing, but it's one of the things I love the North. It's the hunting and the fishing and getting to know Inuit in the same way that I would get to know any other Southern friend. But it takes time to build that trust and build those relationships. But once we're able to do that, they're very, very meaningful. All right, I've said a lot. Esther and Roland, do either one of you want to start introducing yourselves? And just so you folks know, English is their second language. Their first language is Inuit. And so when they speak in English, they might be speaking a little bit slower. If you have any questions, I can help with that, okay?
All right.
And it also helps us a little bit if you speak slowly to us as well. All right, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to start first. Can you guys hear me clearly or?
Yep, it's perfect.
We can hear you.
Okay, my name is Roland Tatu. I'm originally from Arctic Bay, more north from this community, and I moved to Inuit last year, and I started at the school for 2 days of work as a SSA student support assistant for 2 days. And I heard that there was going to be a college for NTEP, and I applied that one and I got approved. So this is my first year for college. I really like enjoying working with the students.
Awesome.
And I really love to play hockey.
Love hockey. It's one of my favorite sports, honestly. Great to watch. I'm not so great at playing it myself, though.
We love hockey. In Igloolik, we just hosted a major Nunavut tournament. It's called Nunavut Quest. And Igloolik actually won, right, Roland? Were you playing on that team?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't on that team, but still in the community, there are 4 teams in one community. So
yeah, that's really cool. Roland, as an SSA, student support assistant, what sort of work did you do in the school? How do you help those students?
like whoever need a special need or quite a few students need more, what do you call those? Need more assistance for the other students that need help.
Yeah, so sometimes that can look like translating what the teacher is saying because language can be a barrier, right? Sometimes it could just be encouraging them because I find that confidence when I see a land student, like a student that is really strong on the land as a hunter, when they come into the school, they lose that confidence in themselves. Yeah, so they need that encouragement, and just support, just being there saying, it's okay, everything's going to work out in a way. Yeah, so SSAs help teachers in the school to make learning easier for our students. Right. Roland, do you know what grades you would like to teach in the future?
I would say from kindergarten to grade 5.
Kindergarten to grade 5. And why is that? Do you want to let the guys know why you would like that?
The one I was used to live in, I worked for Aboriginal Head Start for almost 10 years. And I really enjoyed the little kids working with them because they can say anything what they want.
That's cool. We have a Head Start in town, and it's our preschool. And it's something that's really interesting about Nunavut's education system is that from kindergarten to grade 4, it is all in Inuktitut, at least in Igualit. The students are learning in Inuktitut. And after grade 4, starting grade 5, they get a Southern teacher, and their instruction becomes in English. So guys, you can imagine how challenging that is. It's like going to a French only school up until grade 4, and then all of a sudden the teacher is teaching you in English. Or even better, you're in an English school from kindergarten to grade 4, and all of a sudden a French teacher walks in grade 5 and tries to teach you science and math and French only in French, and how challenging that would be. And so what we really need are Inuit teachers from K to 12 and not just K to 4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And Roland, can you tell us a little bit about what going to school was like for you in Arctic Bay? Did you like going to school when you were a student? What were some of your challenges?
While I was growing up, I used to be a shy person. So I hardly went to go to school before grade 3. As soon as I became grade 3, and I look at myself that I have to stop being shy and just move on, like seeing other kids are not shy, and I just copied them. So I really liked the school after grade 3, not just being shy, and I really enjoyed the school year of my life.
Really, really good to hear. We had actually one more thing about just you're as an alumni of a school on these. How did you call them? What did you call them? Sorry, settlement was it?
Sorry, say that again, Russell?
You said you lived on settlements, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So as a graduate from a school on a settlement, one question was, how was it trying to find a job after graduating? Roland, do you have some insight in that?
Great question. How was finding a job?
It's kind of hard to find a job after graduating. It's small community, and they're all kind of already taken, and it's kind of hard to find a job after graduating. It's kind of isolating like whenever there's any opening, they apply, and it's kind of hard to find a job, real job that is already taken by graduations. They more likely waiting for a year or so.
Did you ever try looking for one off of the settlement, somewhere else in the world?
What was that?
Have you tried looking for a job in a different place in the world, like off of the settlement?
I think they might have been asking about, did you ever think about leaving the settlement to get a job? Is that right, Russell?
Yes.
You ever think about leaving the north, Roland, for a job?
I don't know. I'm kind of thinking after graduating this one and go for a university in South. We'll see.
Yeah. I'd love to see that for you.
I'm still thinking about it.
Yeah. I find that many of my graduating students don't want to leave their community. For a lot of them, the Arctic is all they've ever known. It's what their families have ever known. It's what their ancestors have ever known, and they feel this strong connection to the land, and they're not ready to leave their home. And like Roland was saying, in the north there aren't that many jobs. What are some of the jobs that are sort of in town, Roland?
What was it again?
What are some of the jobs that we have available in our hamlet? You know, when you talk about jobs are all taken, what are those jobs?
Like a maintenance and fuel, oil, heating oil.
Like fuel truck drivers and fuel pump attendants, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And water delivery or garbage pickup or
water and sewage drivers are really important jobs because our water and sewage is all trucked to each house. So a water truck will deliver water to every house, and a sewage truck will suck out the sewage tank empty from every house. So those are really important jobs. But as you can see, they're very much like hamlet or city, what we would call city workers that are required to make a community run smoothly. Right. And let's switch gears a little bit. Thank you so much, Roland. Let's switch a little bit over to Esther, because Esther has had a job in our CCC. And CCC is our community care center. It's where our elders go when they need additional care for their health as they get older. It's sort of an elders home. So Esther can talk a little bit about what it was like for her growing up, her family, and her beautiful children now, and some of the work that she's done in the community. Go ahead and unmute, Esther, when you're ready.
You are now. Okay, I'll start. Hi, I'm Esther. I live in Igloolik for 18 years now. I've been substituting both high schools and elementary school. I noticed some children needs more help with reading and writing both languages because we use two languages, Inuit and English. And I find students need more help, so I'm the reason why I'm trying to become a teacher.
just before you guys came on, Esther was telling me about how this was going to be the first summer where she's going to get a summer break. Tell them a little bit about the job that you did.
I recently I was working at the CCC for 12-hour shifts. I worked a couple years from there, and I never had a summer break before. When I finished my high school, I started working, and I've been working ever since now. Since 2006 was my graduation year, and this is gonna be my first summer break. I'm looking forward to it.
Esther is a really fast reader, and she really likes to read. And she's taking home a couple books for the summer, and one of them is Stephen King's autobiography. So I'm excited to hear about what that will come back, or what she thinks about that book. But Esther, you have 5 kids now, right? You've got 5, and Marcel on your back is your youngest.
My oldest son is 14 years old. He started working at the Northern Stock Boy, and he will be full-time working this summer.
Wow.
And he's only 14.
Very cool. And Marcel here has been to every one of our classes so far, so he's already on his way to become a teacher in the future. Oh yeah. Yeah. I think when Esther and Roland talk about how students need more support, part of that is a language barrier. Another big part is that when students come to school, they're really not ready for learning. You know, we talk a lot about the Maslow hierarchy of needs. The very basic is having clean drinking water, having good health care, right? Having shelter, having eaten. And a lot of those basic needs sometimes aren't met. And so when students come, they're struggling with so many things at home, and they're struggling with their basic needs. And so it becomes really challenging for them to do their academic work. Right. And Esther and Roland, when you were going to school, did you go to school regularly?
Yes, I was forced to go to school and finish my school. And there were not a lot of food. Right now,
Going
the
to
school, the school got more food now, and more students come to school every day.
Yeah, and I think that's a really big piece. A lot of students will come to school for a good meal, and that as teachers, we try our best to do more than what we do in our classroom. Teaching is not just what we do in the classroom, and I think that's going to be part of the reason why Esther and Roland become such great teachers, is because they've seen it and they know what it's like at home for these students, and they can provide that better care. I think as teachers, and I wonder if Esther and Roland, you agree, I think as teachers, it's less about what we teach our students and more about how we show our care for our students. Right? When we show them that we care about their well-being, we care about their success, it goes much further than when we teach them how gravity works, or how to do the quadratic formula. We live in a different place, and teaching in itself changes in that way as well.
Do you guys have any questions?
Yeah.
yeah, I think you guys pretty much covered all of our questions without us having to ask them.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. This was really great. It was really informational for all of us.
Yeah, we really
Educating.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Thanks for reaching out. This was kind of cool for us too, and maybe the final thing we go off on is why don't we tell them one what a glulik means? I always thought that was interesting, and why don't we share with them our foundational teaching of being Tungasugi? Why don't we share a little bit about that? And then I think these guys will have to go back to class. Who wants to share a little bit?
Tungasugi. I don't know where to start.
Or Tunga
Ito
Nanga.
lang is like, tungan. Info.
Let's start with iglulik. That's an easy one. We can talk about what iglulik means.
Inuit is a nice community of welcoming and nice people, and it's a whole lot bigger than my old community, and they're welcoming us a lot since last year until now, and I'm thankful for the community that welcoming us. I been enjoying it a lot.
Many I guess First Nations and Native communities have what we would have learned about in school as the seven grandfather teachings. We don't have the seven grandfather teachings in the North with the Inuit community. We have what we call IQ principles. Must be rebel.
Yeah,
and IQ
we have 5
principles,
minutes.
it means what Inuit have always known. And as you heard about Roland speaking about Iglulik, one of the foundational principles of Inuit is being welcoming. And being welcoming is the way that we greet one another. We greet by smiling at each other, and that shows how welcoming we are. And by saying, you are welcome here, or welcome to Iglulik, or welcome to the high school, welcome to the college. Make yourself at home. That's a very foundational principle to Inuit. And Iglulik in itself, the word Iglu means house, and lik means like one here, right? So it literally translates to there's a house here. And I believe someone was sitting on that red rock and said, look, there's a house here. There was a story that I heard from an elder, George Kulo, and that's where the name Iglula came from. So, all right, thanks for having us, you guys. We'll let you go and go back to class. We'd love to hear the final product of this podcast when you're finished with it. And if you have any questions, you can follow up with any emails, and I'm happy to answer them.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you.